I think the overall thought is that it's going to be highly competitive. And, you take a look at a team like Oklahoma. The main question I have with them, well, the two main questions. Number one, can their defense be improved? And number two, the offensive line. I mean, let's face it, they had the Joe Moore Award-winning offensive line, which I'm very pleased to be a voter on. It was the best offensive line. When I talked to Coach Riley and we're going over the team, I threw out the offensive line. He said, Phil, that might have been the best offensive line of offensive line that comes around once every 20 years. It was that good of an offensive line last year. They only have one starter back, so that would be a little bit of a question. With Texas, your question marks would be, hey, they only have 8 returning starters this year. Ellinger's a nice piece to build on, but that defense lost a lot of talent, and they're lower on the experience chart. With Iowa State, they have a lot of toss-up games on the schedule, but Matt Campbell gets them winning a lot of those toss-up games. Maybe the best defense in the Big 12, which is where I like to start, is with defense. And they also have a pretty good quarterback in Brock Purdy. And talking to Coach Campbell each and every year, this is by far his best offensive line that he's put on the field. So I think that's a big plus. And then you go to Baylor, a team with that has a lot of players back. Clearly, it's Matt Rule's best team that he's put on the field since he got there in his 3 years. You go back to his first year, you're scratching your head, why would anybody take the Baylor job? They went 1-11, and then last year, as we're getting off the phone, he goes, Phil, we're going to make a bowl game this year. And I sort of dismissed it, didn't put him on my most improved list. But guess what? Lo and behold, Baylor made a bowl. So I asked him this year, I'm like, okay, Coach, what's up? And he's expecting them to be a Big 12 contender, and I'm not going to discount their chances. Then you look at TCU, a team where Gary Patterson just, every time he has a down year, they bounce back. And TCU is probably the most banged-up team in the entire country last year. And I follow them all. We follow 130 teams, keep track of the starts lost. They had to be at the top, down to a third-string quarterback. Had one healthy running back a lot of the games down the stretch, and each unit got hit hard by injuries. Now, TCU went from 4-8 in 2013 all the way up to 12-1 in 2014. 2016, they were 6-7 and went all the way up to 11-3. I expect a similar bounce-back type of year for TCU. They will challenge Iowa State for best defense in the Big 12. And offensively, you got guys like Jalen Rager at receiver, a solid offensive line, perhaps Alex Delton, the Kansas State transfer at QB. I think that sets up well. Oklahoma State, which I'm sure we'll talk about at length, my biggest question mark with them probably on defense. They never have a problem offensively under Coach Gundy, but they definitely have some question marks on defense with losing 7 of their top 8 defensive linemen, only 5 starters back on that side of the ball. But it's an Oklahoma State team that can beat anybody on any given day. I mean, last year they upset Boise, Texas, West Virginia, Missouri. It's an Oklahoma State team that is 6-1 their last 7 games against top 25 teams, but they proved last year that they can lose to anybody on any given day. They lost to Texas Tech, Iowa State, Kansas State, Baylor, all as a favorite. In fact, the shocking number to me, Robert, is that they're 4-5 their last 9 Big 12 home games, despite being favored in all 9. That's a little bit of a shocker. But then you go one more level. I think I'm going to include one more team in the mix, and that's Texas Tech. Matt Wells, great respect for, and I think he's inheriting a pretty good Texas Tech team. And if you watch them in the spring, the ball never hit the ground for Alan Bowman. He's going to complete a high percentage of his passes. They've got good talent on defense.